When you've tasted that before and you know what it feels like and you know what it looks like and all that kind of stuff, it's much different from it being your first time getting hit with that kind of power, your first time seeing that kind of speed and that kind of the overall makeup of a Tank Davis is surprising to most fighters. It won't be surprising to Lamont Roach. And Lamont is a DMV fighter himself, which means he got that dog, you know? It's gonna be
up until the body shot. Right. So I feel like with Lamont, it was still like Tank in one of them other fights where it's like, this is a good fight. Yeah, you know, they both grew up in DC. He been in the ring with Tank. He got that like attitude where it's like, you can't go back to the block if you let boy do something to you. Right. Like, so like, I knew that it could be a good fight, but I'm still like, nah, Tank gonna beat him. When I got in the arena, it wasn't a surprise because it's like I said, I know what Lamont come with. Right. It just was, he just showed what I thought could possibly happen. But if Tank would have beat him easier, it never been a surprise.
Right. So who did you think won the fight?
A draw. I say it over and over. I don't think Lamont did enough to for them to raise his hand and take Tank reputation and everything that.
Some think Roach is just a stylistically bad fight for Davis, while others reckon Tank will come out as a much sharper version of himself in the rematch. Anthony Darrell has now shared his take on the fight. He believes Davis will be a lot better, but expects Roach to continue his good work in the rematch. Darrell, though, is backing Davis to get the job done. He told YSM Sports Media,
to raise his hand and take Tank reputation and everything that Tank built.
Taking a knee, you felt that should have been called a knockdown?
Yes, it should have been called a knockdown for sure. I've never seen that in boxing, but you do gotta realize though, like in boxing, if a guy if something wrong with you, something getting your cup, something is like fucking up with you, how do you take a pause in the action?
In amateurs, you could do that.
Tank probably thought hold up, let me take a step back. Hold up, but you know.
It is what it is.
And if it was somebody else, they would have counted though, I believe.
Was a close fight. It was a draw. You got to give it the draw. I think Tank would come in a little different, but I think Roach would still be there to counter him and do everything, but I think Tank would pull off the victory when asked whether Gervonta Davis has more to prove due to the controversy surrounding the first fight. He said, "No, I don't think so. He's got what to prove. What is he proving he didn't low?"
Month after that, we have the rematch of Tank versus Roach. You saw the first fight. How did you score that first fight?
It was a close fight. Since the knockdown is no draw, I mean, it was a draw. You got to give it the draw, but I think Tank can come in a little different, but I think Roach will still be there to counter him and do everything, but I think Tank can pull off the victory.
Do you think Tank has more to prove because of
Gervonta Davis is currently one of the most exciting fighters in boxing and holds a professional record of 3,001 with 28 knockout wins. Lamont Roach, meanwhile, is now January 2nd, 25. With 10 knockout wins under his belt, there are very few people in the world who can say they have a better understanding of what Tank is like in that boxing ring than Frank Martin, who fought against Davis June last year. Both fighters entered the fight with an undefeated record, but it was Tank who emerged as the victor, knocking Martin out in the 8th round. This was the most recent bout Davis had before fighting Roach, and the reigning WBA lightweight title holder looked much different between the two bouts. In fact, some believe this fight against Martin was the best Davis had ever seen in the ring.
I think Roach will still be there to counter him and do everything, but I think Tank can pull off the victory.
Do you think Tank has more to prove because of what everybody was saying about him, that he did take a knee, that he should have been counted as a knockdown, he should have lost that fight? Do you think Tank has more to prove?
No, I don't think he got what to prove. What he proving? He ain't lose.
Good.
Yeah,
anything else you got to say to the fans?
Nah.
Dunn Martin spoke with Fight Hype on June 9th and offered his opinion on the first Tank versus Roach fight along with the rematch. I think the first Tank versus Roach fight was competitive. Roach came out and fought the best fight that he could possibly fight right against Tank. He came out with his A game, and I feel like Tank came in that fight not underestimating Roach, but more like we got history. I know what he likes, both of them basically. Martin said. He later added, I feel like Tank fought that fight like not fully trying to get off. I don't feel like he fought it more relaxed and chill instead of really trying to get him up out of there. When asked how he thinks the rematch will go, Martin said, I think the rematch is going to be a good fight still, but I think Tank may get him up out of there this next fight, even with the knockdown and all that stuff too. The rematch, I feel like Tank going to turn up on this next one.
With the same people, it kind of was more of the fight was more of like a, I feel like, so Roach came out and fought his best fight that he could possibly fight, right? Against Tank. He came out with his A game, boom. And I feel like Tank came in that fight not underestimating Roach, but more like we got history. I know what he like, both of them basically, but Roach is gonna automatically have more of a little spark because he tried to get that spot. And Tank probably just like, I know you. I'm gonna do what I want to do to you. Or I'm gonna do what I.
Good fighter, the boxing world is eager to see whether Martin's sentiment comes true. WBA's super featherweight champion Lamont Roach Jr. nearly turned the boxing world on its head back on March 1st in New York, pushing WBA lightweight king Gervonta to the brink. Now the highly anticipated rematch is on, but wait, a fresh training clip of Roach just hit social media and fans are split. Is he really ready to snatch the crown this time, or is Tank still in charge? Earlier this year, Roach defied the odds, going toe-to-toe with Davis in a battle that ended in a controversial majority decision draw. Some say if it weren't for the 9th round knee incident, where what looked like a knockdown wasn't ruled one, Roach would have walked away with the win. Music, that drama has only fueled the hype for the rematch, but the big question remains, can Roach Jr. finish what he started? The Davis versus Roach Jr. The rematch was initially slated for June 21st, but updated reports confirmed that the bout has been postponed to August 16, 2025 in Las Vegas. While the official venue has yet to be announced, industry insiders expect either the T-Mobile Arena or the MGM Grand Garden Arena to host the event regardless. In the lead-up to the rematch, Fight Hub TV shared a training clip of Lamont Roach Jr. on Instagram, captioned, "Lamont Roach Jr. is showing off his boxing skills on the heavy bag ahead of his rematch fight versus Gervonta." In the footage, Roach Jr. works the heavy bag with sharp movement and calculated combinations, showcasing his improved form. Davis and Roach Jr. share a competitive history that dates back to their amateur days, where Davis emerged victorious in both of their encounters. However, their first professional meeting told a different story. The Reaper pushed Davis harder than any opponent had before. Whether this was due to Davis having an off night or Roach Jr.'s significant evolution as a fighter remains a topic of debate. However, one controversial moment from their previous clash continues to draw scrutiny. During the bout, Davis dropped to one knee and retreated to his corner to have his face wiped, in action clearly outside the bounds of boxing regulations. Surprisingly, the Baltimore native was not penalized for the incident, which has since sparked backlash from fans and pundits.
I feel like the draw was cool, but with him taking the knee, like I say, Tank. Like they gonna give it to their man. They gonna give it to the guy who bringing in all the money. But it was a close fight overall. But the rematch, I feel like Tank gonna do. He gonna turn up on this next one.
You think he was locked in more with you than Roach, or you think it was kind of?
For sure. Hell yeah. I feel like he was a lot more locked in with me than Roach. Roach a good fighter. Roach a good.
Night's still public opinion leans heavily in Davis's favor this time around, despite the controversy and Roach Jr.'s valiant effort. Many predict that Gervonta Davis will return with a statement performance and dominate the rematch. Given how the first fight unfolded, you'd expect fans to approach the rematch with some hesitation, but the sentiment online was quite the opposite. One user didn't seem fazed by Roach's training clip. "That's a cool Tank in 9." The user commented, however, Davis's power shots didn't affect Roach last time, so what's the guarantee that they will this time? Meanwhile, this user acknowledged that Roach Jr. had earned a fan in him, but still predicted Davis's victory. "I don't want people to get him." "I'm a Roach fan now, but I'm still a Tank fan. Tank knocking him out in the next fight," the user wrote. Notably, Davis boasts a 933% knockout ratio, so that's not out of the realm of possibility. The next user believed Davis would approach the rematch with heightened focus and intensity. "Tank by CoRD6, he's not showing any love," the user commented. Despite the rivalry on screen, Davis and Roach have known each other for years and also share a long friendship. Another user felt Roach Jr.'s punches were not that impressive. "I love Roach, but his punches are kind of funny looking," the user wrote. "If you think about it, they don't have to look good. They just have to get the job done." Someone else predicted dire consequences for Lamont Roach. Whether this prediction turns into reality, that said, it appears Lamont Roach Jr. E's efforts to share an update from his training have backfired on him big time, but what do you think will happen in a rematch? The next user believed Davis would approach the rematch with heightened focus and intensity, tanked by Co-6. He's not showing any love, the user commented. Despite the rivalry on screen, Davis and Roach have known each other for years and also share a long friendship. Another user felt Roach Jr. E's punches were not that impressive.
How many rematches that you fought?
0.
What do you have to do to create enough separation where this don't happen again?
Whew, it's a good question. It's gonna be based on my training camp. I have to push myself a little harder. If that didn't get me the win, and I have room. I definitely have room. I'm not gonna lie, I have room.
You believe you fought the best Gervonta, or do you think he got some more gears?
100% for a fact. I think he might have some more gears, but I fought the best Gervonta that night.
Love Roach, but his punches are kind of funny looking. The user wrote, if you think about it, they don't have to look good, they just have to get the job done. This prediction turns into reality. That said, it appears Lamont Roach Jr. E's efforts to share an update from his training have backfired on him. Big-time trainer Greg Hackett describes the upcoming Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach bout as a good fight, though he acknowledges that Roach may not be as well known to casual boxing fans who haven't closely followed the sport.
I don't want people to get it misconstrued or whatever the case may be. He's a hell of a fighter, hell of an IQ, great punching power, good speed, and a really good boxing ability. A lot of people underrate that. Don't think because of what I did, y'all think y'all can just go in there and think y'all can have the same night, you know what I'm saying, or do the same thing. He still will go upside your head and crack you, and you know what I'm saying, you might end up on the floor. Everybody not built the same.
Lamont is just a cool bull, but he can fight and he is a champion. We should respect him as such. The problem is we're always looking for hype. We're always looking for big fights, when honestly, truly, this is a good fight. Lamont Roach knows Tank Davis. Tank Davis knows Lamont Roach. It's a local fight, and it's big for their part of town, for the DMV. It's massive. They both fought Hector Garcia. The reason I brought that up is because of the level of boxing. Tank only fought him a year and a half ago. Hector Garcia, so that is the same level of boxing, commented Hackett on Tank and Roach's history with Hector Garcia. So how can we say Tank is cherry picking when this guy Roach has a title, they have a history, and know each other? The only thing that's missing is that flair, like a Ryan Garcia or Devin Haney. They got the flair on them because the attention has been on them for some years, Greg Hackett expressed.
And that's what people getting messed up. He did a whole lot of things that was good in that fight. A whole lot. And I'm telling you right now, if he wasn't as good of a fighter as he was, that would have been, you know what I'm saying? I would have steamrolled him. Don't get that misconstrued. He's still the guy he is. It's just he ran into a guy that's...
Defeat, as crazy as it sounds, Gervonta Davis was actually considering fighting the heavyweight YouTuber turned boxer Jake Paulwright when his March 1st bout against Lamont Roach Jr. was yet to happen. Apparently Tank was looking for a big payday for his last fight, as he was planning to officially retire from the sport with a possibly untouched 30-0 record by the end of this year.
You know, obviously the part with the grease in the eye, that took on a life of its own, you know what I'm saying? That was a headline in the fight. One is, what did you think when he said that initially, just like the grease in the eye? But two is like, when you was in the fight, was there any point that you saw that? Like, did you see like him kind of messing with his eye, or did you have any indication that that was something that was bothering him?
No, see, and that's the thing. If you look at the whole fight, he was never bothering his eyes before you jabbed him. Before I jabbed him. Even that right hand that, like, you know what I'm saying, that kind of landed, he kind of wrote.
Though it didn't turn out to be as the former World Boxing Association lightweight champ would have expected, the Reaper wasn't like the 30-year-old's usual opponents, putting up a solid fight for 12 rounds. The result, yeah, it was a draw by majority decision, and of course Roach wanted a rematch given that their contract negotiations included the rematch clause. The knockout artist didn't quite have a choice. Excitingly for the 29-year-old, a rematch is in place for August 16th in Las Vegas, Nevada. But an interesting thing to note here is that all this was happening while the problem child was all set to fight Davis. However, Paul is now looking forward to his upcoming 10-round fight against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. on June 28th. Although derailed, if the Paul Davis matchup were to happen, what would be the terms?
bull. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's just in height and stature. He was, technically bigger than Tank too. But Tank is comfortable at 135.
Joe Rogan, speaking on his podcast, offered one of the most brutally honest takes so far. Roach won that fight. He said, flatly cutting through all the justifications and post-fight narratives, his stance was that the draw wasn't just controversial, it was generous. What makes Rogan's commentary matter here is his perspective on aging and mental sharpness. He connected Davis's struggles to a broader decline that many elite fighters eventually face. Not every champion stays a champion forever, and when Rogan said that sometimes the greats just stop being what they were, it felt like a warning siren for Davis. The rematch isn't just about winning, it's about proving he hasn't hit that wall yet. I think Gervonta.
It's boxing. What's gonna happen is gonna happen. It's boxing.
That's right. Meanwhile, Keshin Davis has wasted no time throwing his name into the mix. In his interview with Fight Hype, he laid out his intentions in simple terms. Whoever wins, he wants them next. But there was a little more urgency in his voice. When talking about Roach, it was clear that he sees Roach as the more beatable option in a fight that makes financial and sporting sense. His words were calculated, respectful enough to get the fight, but competitive enough to stir attention. If Tank wins, the narrative is about legacy and staying on top. If Roach wins, Keshin sees an opening to launch himself into the upper tier of the division. Either way, he's not waiting around. If you
what it is, I mean, you just don't ever know what can happen in the sport. Right. I mean, we take losses every day, even though I may have had my hand raised every time I went out there and performed, but when I lost my Uncle Roger, that was a defeat.
Meanwhile, Keshin Davis has wasted no time throwing his name into the mix. In his interview with Fight Hype, he laid out his intentions in simple terms. Whoever wins, he wants them next. But there was a little more urgency in his voice. When talking about Roach, it was clear that he sees Roach as the more beatable option in a fight that makes financial and sporting sense. His words were calculated, respectful enough to get the fight, but competitive enough to stir attention. If Tank wins, the narrative is about legacy and staying on top. If Roach wins, Keshin sees an opening to launch himself into the upper tier of the division. Either way, he's not waiting around. If you
Yeah, no, we're working on it behind the scenes to make that happen, and obviously that's a fight where the fans are going to win, and it's going to be the biggest event of the year.
What weight would you fight him at?
We're working on it, but it'd be an exhibition most likely.
The added spotlight also means this rematch now carries implications beyond just two fighters. It's now part of a bigger chain reaction in the lightweight scene. Shocker Stevenson, Keshin Davis, Devin Haney, and others are all orbiting this fight, ready to swoop in depending on the outcome. The pressure then isn't just on Tank to win, it's on him to look dominant doing it, because a sloppy win or another razor-thin result won't settle anything. It will only intensify the noise.
But me and Gervonta were scheduled to fight for sure.
How real or what was to it with you and Tank actually being a thing? Was that something that was talked about?
Yeah, no, it was highly talked about and in negotiations and almost ready to make happen, but he has to do his rematch with Lamont and get that W, and then we'll be able to run it back. But me and Gervonta were scheduled to fight for sure.
There's no seat. There's also the matter of Roach's own mindset. By aligning himself with a campaign to stop hate, he's essentially admitting that he's more concerned with his public image than stoking the kind of personal animosity that drives blockbuster rematches. That's a risky move in boxing. Respect only goes so far. At a certain point, the fans want to see some bad blood. They want to believe that these two fighters genuinely can't stand each other. If Roach keeps this all-love approach, he risks coming off as the passive, less hungry fighter, a dangerous perception to carry into a ring with someone as explosive as Davis.